All right, so today we've got a story with a really unique perspective. We're going to explore what family life was like back in the summer of 1958, but it's told by the very walls that saw it all happen. So yeah, let's step inside and listen to what this watchful house has to say.
And right away, we meet our hero, Betty. The house itself just lays it all out for us, doesn't it? See, this wasn't just about cooking. Nope. This was a full-blown daily mission, blending a mother's love with the razor-sharp precision of a quartermaster.
And this really gets to the core of what was happening in Betty's kitchen. It wasn't about fancy recipes. It was a whole philosophy of food, born from one simple, powerful need: feeding a family.
Now, Betty didn't just start out as this master of practicality. Like a lot of women back then, she was aiming for those picture-perfect meals you'd see in the magazines. But reality, and let's be honest, the reality of three constantly hungry boys, it taught her a different lesson, and fast. She figured out that the perfect meal wasn't the fanciest one. It was the one that got her family fed and happy without driving her absolutely crazy.
And that right there, that was the heart of her philosophy. Her secret ingredient wasn't some rare spice, it was consistency. She showed her love through what you could call a rhythm of reliability. That simple, unspoken promise that a good meal would always be there, right when it was needed the most.
So, what did this philosophy actually look like in practice? Well, it was a non-stop operation, a true daily feeding marathon. Just imagine, the very first sound of the day was that familiar burble of the coffee percolator. And from there, it was just a whirlwind of beautiful chaos. You had efficient breakfasts to get everyone out the door, a full-on assembly line for sandwiches at lunchtime, and afternoons that called for, and I quote, strategic snack operations, just to keep everybody happy. It was relentless for sure, but it was a system built on love.
Of course, an operation like this had its key players. And first up, we have the eldest son, 14-year-old Randy, who had the perfect nickname, the human garbage disposal.
This was his morning catchphrase. I mean, the kid wouldn't just eat his own breakfast, he was already eyeing everybody else's plate before they'd even taken a bite. He was the quintessential growing teenager, you know?
Then you've got 11-year-old Stan. He wasn't just hungry, he was strategic about it. He was the family's logistician, already plotting out his lunch and snack situation while he was still eating his cereal.
And finally, rounding out the crew was the wild card, 2-year-old Scott. His whole approach to food, it was less about eating and more about, well, self-expression. He was the family's abstract artist.
Oh, you can just picture it, can't you? Food on the floor, on the walls, total chaos. But Betty, ever the quartermaster, she had a solution. She'd just spread a layer of newspaper under his high chair. It was a masterpiece of practical problem solving.
But hey, life wasn't all about the weekday grind. The weekends, they brought a totally different energy. Meals went from being about simple sustenance to these little moments of celebration.
On the weekends, it was like the whole house just exhaled. The air wasn't filled with the smell of hurried toast. Instead, it was pancake batter on a hot griddle, sizzling bacon. Those smells weren't just about breakfast. They were a signal that things were about to slow down. And as amazing as those breakfasts were, the real centerpiece of a 1958 summer weekend was the family barbecue out on the patio. And this is where Dad, Fred, he took center stage. Now, Fred's process was way more about the ritual than it was about culinary perfection. He'd tend that grill with this intense focus, transforming from an insurance agent into this suburban grill master. And his specialty, the grilled chicken, was famous for being, let's just say, thoroughly cooked. So, were the results always gourmet? Let's be real, the chicken sometimes had a bit of a charcoal finish, and the steak could be tough as shoe leather. But you know what? It didn't matter. Not one bit. The magic wasn't in the food itself. It was in the ritual. The smoke, being outdoors, that's what made everything taste like a celebration. So when you put it all together, the weekday marathon and the weekend rituals, you start to see the bigger picture. The main ingredient in Betty's kitchen wasn't something you could measure in a cup. Think about it this way. The meals weren't just about filling stomachs. They were the punctuation marks of family life. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They gave each day its structure, its rhythm. They were the anchors that held everything together.
Because at the end of the day, it was never really about what was on the plates. It was about who was around the table. That simple, reliable act of just gathering together, that was the whole point.
And for Betty, standing there over a sink full of dishes, there was this quiet satisfaction. No applause, no awards, just the deep down knowledge that her one true mission for the day was complete. Her family was safe, fed, and together.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? This story shows us that it's often not the five-star dinners we remember the most. It's the simple, reliable meals we shared with the people we love. So it kind of makes you wonder, right? In your own life, what humble meal has become an unforgettable memory?